So I want to do that. So what I'll start with first is I'll start as furthest away from the river and then move my way inward. And so whenever you have these large open grass patches like you see here, what's helpful is to use trees to kind of fill in that space. And we've got some really nice new trees that just got released with the 2.0. It's these summer trees here. These will work out just fine. And I'm just going to place a couple of them like this just to kind of fill in some space here. Like that one looks good there. Let's put one here. Here, what I want to do here is I don't want to hide too much of where my players are going to be walking, the path here. So I'll just kind of place it around there. This one looks good here. And then let's also look over here. One big tree good here. I also want to have some overlapping going into the water like that. See how that overlaps? That looks really, really nice when you do an overlap. So I'll put one there as well. Maybe we can put one here. Let me just take a step back and see how those trees look. Yep, it's already kind of filling in that space a little bit, which is like really nice. And then once I've kind of added in some trees, I'll go ahead and just select one of them, select all from this set. I'm just going to bring them up a layer, couple layers. I want them to be above everything else. Like think of it this way. Trees are taller than most of the structures that you see here. Most trees will probably be taller because these are only one floor. So these trees will be tall. So you're going to place them a layer above everything else, right? The tallest thing on your map will go on a higher layer, right? That kind of makes sense. Or a sub layer. Now that I've done that, I want to add in some bushes. You start with the largest stamp first, and then you move your way down to the medium size one. So we might want to look up maybe bushes or trees. We could just look up forest as well for a tag. And a bunch of forest stuff will pop up here. See, we have a lot of different flowering bushes here. We've also got these reeds. These leafy plants might look good. This might look good there. See, there's a whip there. These ferns also look really good along, I think ferns look really good along shorelines of rivers. So those will work really nice, especially in like a temperate rainforest area. That works out well. Why don't we just type in, let's take a look here. Do we have any bushes here? I've got this yellow bushes here. Let's try these yellow bushes here. I don't really care much for the yellowish color. I think what I'll do is just change the hue just a little bit, just to get a little bit more of that green color. And I want to make sure that it's a layer below. And then I'll just go ahead and place these bushes along here. And I kind of want to frame things a little bit. Make sure that's a layer below. There we go. Oops, got to go down a couple more layers here. There we go. Underneath, put some along here. Definitely place them underneath of a tree, around a tree, because you want to show this idea of depth. And the way that you show depth is by doing overlap, right? A tree is taller than a bush, so you put some bushes underneath it, and it will give this sense of, is there a reed stamp? There is, Andrew, that I know of. I'm not sure it's been updated yet to 2.0. We can check that in just a moment, but I don't think it has quite yet. But we can check. Hey, Typer Zero. Good, glad that you're here. Sweet. Love seeing these faces here. I love all my regulars. They're fantastic. Okay, I think there looks good there. And I like that they're a little bit different color instead of like that other green. You notice it's kind of got a little bit of yellow still in it, and that is nice because it pops out from the tree, which has a little bit more green in it. And I want that to happen, right? I want a distinction between the bush and the tree. And then also, I mentioned ferns. So let's go ahead and take the ferns here, that leafy plant. Not sure. Let's see which one looks better. Let's go with this fern right here. And I'll bring it down another layer just to make sure. And I'm going to place these all along. I'm going to put random rotation. And I've got my randomized stamp, and then I'm just going to single click place these all along the shore here, a lot of it along the shore, and even have some of it kind of coming out, like right along here would be good, along here, little line here, and you're going to see that our shoreline starts to kind of come to life a little bit when you start adding these ferns. And it will break up that straight line that you see, this little straight line you see here. These ferns break that up, making it much nicer. Okay, let's add this in here. I might have been the one that helped with your mountains, Andrew. I don't know. I can't remember. Probably. I hope so. Always glad to help. I also do customer support, so you can always reach out to me if you guys need help with anything. Okay, let's go ahead and take a step back. And I think that really came together really nicely. We've really broken up those kind of straight lines along the edges, which I really didn't care for. So that was really nice. The other stuff that we can add is we want to add maybe some rocks, because a river isn't, or this river or stream or whatever it is, we want to add in some rocks. So why don't we type in rock real quick? And I'm going to show you guys how to make waterfalls as well, because maybe we want a little bit of babbling brooks, or we want maybe some waterfalls, whatever it might be. So let's go ahead and use these smooth, mossy rock piles. This makes sense. We've got a lot of grass in this area, so having some rocks in this kind of green space with some little bit of moss on it would work really well, so we could do that. And the way that I usually go about this is I'll make like a whole section where there's maybe like a rock bed of some kind. Like we can end up taking some of these ferns away right here like this. Let's just remove a couple ferns. And then we'll have a section where there's like a rock bar of some kind. So I'll just bring the scale down. Go ahead and put it right here. Not a bad place to put it. Excuse me, at the base of the bridge there. And I'll just go ahead and place some rocks just along here, just like this. I'll maybe make it a bit smaller, put one here, one there like that. And now you have this nice kind of stone, these little rocks right here. And we can even sprinkle them in a little bit underneath the fern. So like maybe put a couple in here, and here, and then maybe on the other side as well, just a couple, not too much. That looks good. One there. There we go. I don't want to have it too much. I want to isolate it into some spots. And that, what that does now is we have this neutral gray color, and that is going to contrast against these cooler green colors. So that gray plays a huge role. It's a neutral color, and so it goes really well with those colors. We'll add in a couple more, and I think what we'll also do is we'll throw in some of these smaller mossy rock debris. I'll go down a layer a little bit and just kind of place these like this, just so that I can kind of break it up a little bit. Looks good. There we go. Much better. All right. So now we kind of have our rock bars. We have a lot going on there, so that looks really nice. Let's also maybe put some in the water itself. We could maybe take these small moss rocks. Let's take these moss rocks right here. Find the right size. I think that looks good, and I'll show you how to make some like tiny little waterfalls. See, there's a big rock right here. We can take a rock and put it adjacent to it, just like this. And then maybe I'll put another one right here. I don't want it to be centered perfectly, so I'll offset it just a little bit to where maybe it's closer to here, like this. Let's go right about there. That looks good. And then I can go in, type in waterfall. Oopsie, didn't get in the search field. And if you don't like the black lines, the line work that's within the waterfall, I'll show you a nice little trick that you can do. You can just go to tweak colors, bring the brightness all the way up, and bring the contrast, and then you'll have this more whitish type of color, which I think works a little bit better. And then you just place that right there like that, and now you have this little waterfall, oopsie, wrong way, like this. Now you have this little tiny little bit of a waterfall right here. And then we can add in some of our, last time we used some snow texture. And a really good brush that I use for water is cloudy. And the reason why I use cloudy is because on a clear, when you have clouds up in the sky, guess what reflects on the water? Clouds, right? So using a cloudy brush helps to kind of emulate that cloudy kind of feel when you add to it. So I'll go ahead and just go here. I'm just going to add to my BG layer. It should be, let me see, what layer are we on here? Water, there it is. And I'll just go ahead and paint some of that just right here like this. Right what you would expect some of the water to be right here like this. There you go. So now you have a nice little waterfall right there. Looks good. Okay. Why don't we maybe make another waterfall just to kind of, or actually, why don't we, just to make this little waterfall more interesting. You notice you have some rocks in the middle of the water. You know that's gonna do? Debris, logs, sticks are gonna get caught on that section right there. So what's helpful is to go in and just type in logs, and you'll see that there's a series of logs here. Like this is some nice logs here. So why don't we place a couple of those? What would happen is if it's floating down the water like this, it might get caught and get stopped right here like this. So maybe you want to place a couple of those. Place one on top right there. I see some longer logs there. Thin wood logs. Let's go ahead and use these longer logs right here. And let's go ahead and put some of them, like a longer one, along the shore here. And we'll go ahead and place it beneath the ferns there. So it got caught underneath right there. Like this. Let's go ahead and change that brightness a little bit to kind of match the 2.0. Looks good. And then I can take these same logs here and put some along the shoreline. Like maybe it got washed up on the shoreline here. Maybe some collected and got caught right there. Looks good. Let's go put another one maybe over here somewhere. Not on that side. Maybe over here somewhere like this. There we go. That looks good. Okay. So now we have some nice details right there. I think that looks good. Just these little details really, really, really help. And then I think what we'll also do is we'll probably put some boats in the water as well, because we want to show this sense of depth. So if I go to structures and flora, and then I do believe there is some boathouses. So I'll just open up a boathouse and just kind of snag one of these boats, unless the boats are somewhere else. Let me check. Just type in boat real quick. Boats, there they are, perfect. Okay, I'll copy and paste. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that there's a boat underneath the bridge to show that there's this sense of height, right? So if I have a boat underneath this bridge, you're going to say, oh, that means it's high enough for a boat to go underneath of it, right? So I'll place some boats in the water here, and then we can also maybe put some nets on it, like they're fishing of some kind, which makes sense, right? If you've got access to water, that's where you get drinking water. That's where you might get fishing, get food. So we'll type in net. And I do believe this black net right here works really, really well. And so I'll just kind of place it right along the boat there like this. Another one like there like that. Another one right here like this. There you go. And now you have some nets in the water doing some fishing. I think that looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and add some more details. I think it's always good just to keep going. So let's go ahead and type back in forest. And why don't we add in a pop of color? Like let's use some bushes that has some flowers in it. We can also maybe pick some flowers just to kind of bring out some color to make it look a little nicer. Always nice to bring out a pop of color. So I'll just go ahead and place a couple of these along the grass edge here just to bring, and you see that white pops out really well. Doing some contrast there. That looks nice. See, my mistake. I'll have to go down a layer to make sure. There we go. Like this. Oops, you don't want to cover up my thing there. Let's place one here. That looks good. One there looks good. You're right. They do look a little small. I was just thinking that I was placing them. That's a good idea. Let's go back to boats real quick. We'll go back to structures and type in boat, and we'll fix that. Great catch, by the way. Totally agree with you on that. Let's go ahead and select all like this, and we'll just go ahead and bump it up one layer there. And I'd say right about 35 looks about right. When I look at the boat, it's quite larger than that bed there. I think that looks okay. There we go. Great, Andrew. Great catch, by the way. Really enjoyed that. Helpful to say the least. Great. Okay, let's keep going. Let me just take a step back and see where we're at here. I think overall, I think this looks okay. I think we can start kind of moving our way into more of the interior. We can do more details on the exterior later. Maybe even throw in some color of some kind. But let's go ahead and go into the interior now, and we'll just go work with one at a time. And remember, I talked about in episode 2 that when it comes to details, it's all about the function of the room that you're in, right? You can add fantasy elements and stuff, but it's all about function. So if this is just a regular house right here, and then I have a kitchen because I have a fireplace here, then I would want to put details like kitchen stuff inside of that room. Same thing with this bedroom. I'd want to put bedroom items like I could have folded clothes. I could have a dresser. I could have a candle. I could have a desk with papers on it. The details are all about what is the function of the room and what are you trying to tell your players about this room. Every single room should have something that's important to your players, whether it pushes the narrative along, whether there's an NPC in that room that pushes the narrative along, or maybe there's some notes or something in a diary in one of the chests or something like that. I try to put every room has some purpose. And what ends up happening too is that sometimes players might not go to a house. All I do is I just keep track of all of those things, and I'll just make sure that there's maybe one thing in each house so that it doesn't really matter where my players go. They'll always have some clue that pushes the story along or moves the narrative. Because players are unpredictable, they might decide that they don't want to go in this house, they want to go to a different house. They might kill the inhabitants of a house because they just felt like doing it. Maybe a barbarian takes a dwarf, chucks it at one of the inhabitants, kills them. That was an important NPC that an important NPC that wants to push the narrative along. You'll have to find a new NPC, put them in another house or some kind of object or something they'll have to interact with. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go ahead and turn on my labels so that I can kind of see which house is which. And then I'll go over to my structures here. And we'll start with a house first because we want to get a lot of details in here. So I'll go to house B. I'm just going to type in house B. There it is right there. I'm going to open it up. I'm inside of that group. And now I'll go ahead and start placing some objects in here. This is a kitchen table. This is like a kitchen, like where you would go to prepare your food, and then you would turn around and go over to the food here, or to the fireplace here, and that works fine. So what we would do is maybe type in kitchen. There's a couple items that we have in here that we can kind of look over. So you got quite a bit of options here. Some good starts are maybe you want to put in something like a wooden kitchen sink. Might not be a bad idea. And I'll make sure it's on the right layer as well. There we go. Make sure that it's below. There we go. I want it to interact with the walls. And I'll go ahead and put this pump on this side right here, so a place to wash dishes. If you've got a dishwashing station like this, then maybe you should add in some plates, right? What do you do with a dishwashing station? You wash dishes. So if we type in some plates here, we can even stack a couple of them together here. Some plates. Why don't we also add in maybe a mug or two? Might not be a bad idea. We'll throw in a couple mugs. Just what you would kind of expect. Maybe you want to have a plate that has some food on it. So let's add another plate. And there should be some food. What about this? Not prison. Let's just type in food real quick. We should be able to find that. Let's do this Eastern home. Let's go ahead and do that. That looks good. And I'll put just a little bit of food on the table there. Bring it down a layer there. There we go. And then we have some food on the table. I'll remove this plate and put that there. That looks good. Okay. We've filled that up. Let's maybe put some object shadows on that just to get that to pop out a little bit. So I'll go to custom object shadow for them. I'll kind of put some shadows together. There we go. Now those will pop out a little bit more. It's called ambient occlusion. It's where you just put a little bit of a drop shadow that's centered, and that shadow will cause the object to look like it's popping up a little bit, like it's more three-dimensional. If you don't have a shadow on something, it's going to look a little bit more flat. So even when I'm doing directional shadows, I'll still add an object shadow to my objects just so that I get that ambient inclusion, that it pops out. Okay, so it's kind of important to kind of remember that. Let's also just kind of throw in like, maybe we want to throw in like logs or wood. There should be some firewood. I think, let me go, I think it's in Tavern. Let's look it up. Let's see. I think I saw some chopped logs there. Some firewood. That makes sense. You can put it right next to the fire here, or you can move it into this corner. Right here, maybe we want a bunch of firewood like stacked up right here like this to show that there's just a bunch. Let's turn off that random rotate. And then just put a bunch of firewood right there so that you have a nice big stack right there. Let's also take individual logs and then put them on top like this just to kind of show that there's been some motion. Right? When you add a little bit of these smaller pieces, it kind of looks like people have been rummaging through the logs, finding the right log for the fireplace. So I'll just place a couple in here like this. Doesn't have to be too much. Let's actually remove that one and just do this up against here. And then I'll also take, great example would be like maybe an axe would be a good choice. Like, how is it that you're chopping the wood? So let's go ahead and take an axe and maybe place that axe in there. And I'll have it facing the other way like this. An axe makes sense. And I think I'll replace this fireplace with the 2.0 fireplace, since we first made this in the 1.0 before the 2.0 release. So I'll just go ahead and place the new fireplace there. I think that would be a good touch. There we go. So much of that kitchen looks good. You can also throw in, maybe we should throw in some crates and barrels that actually has food in it, and then put those on the ground underneath the table so it looks like there's more depth by doing layering. So I'll type in crate, and there's like food here. Why don't we go with like some potatoes? That's a good choice. Bring that down a couple layers. So I'll put like a crate of potatoes there, and I'll put it underneath like this so it kind of looks like it's underneath the table. And then I think I saw, what is this right here? Some lettuce. That sounds good. Let's go ahead and place that lettuce underneath like this. And I will, to show that it's a little further down, I'll bring the brightness down just a little bit, because you're going to use contrast to show height. Things that are higher up, brighter. Things that are farther down, darker. And that way you have this contrast between light and dark, making things look like things are higher up or further down. That's going to be important to kind of remember that little trick there. Some other things I can do is I want to show movement, like people have been moving around. And there's a couple textures that you can use for this. There's like a dirt texture from Sci-Fi, but since we're already in Fantasy Battle Map, I'll just use dry grass. And this dry grass stuff works great to show like maybe dirt, or maybe people have been walking around and they've got dirt. And so that kind of breaks up this clean, see how clean this stone floor is? There's not much going on. So why don't we add some dirt to that? And there's a great texture you can use. Take a guess, and it's called dirt. There's two of them, 1 and 2. These dirt textures work great for any style, but I recommend using them. I'm going to end up always making sure to like change the scale, because if it's too big, then those artifacts are going to be way oversized. So you always have to scale it down. And then I'll bring the opacity down, and then I'll go ahead and take land, which is that FG layer here. And I'm just going to go ahead and create a little bit of foot traffic as if someone was walking around. Right, so I'll put a little bit of foot traffic here. Someone walk to the desk, walk to here, walk to here. And that's going to create this illusion, or this sense of like people have been walking and moving around, leaving a little bit of dirt. Looks good. Let's take a step back and just look at it. I think the kitchen looks fairly good. Overall, I like the way that it looks. We can probably go ahead and just add some object shadows to these stamps here. Looks like we've already got a shadow on there. Let's just go ahead and just take the offsets to 0. I'm going to move this to the side here, and I'll bring the intensity up just a little bit more. There we go. And then you have some shadow here to kind of make sure that that stuff pops out a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right. Now that we've finished that kitchen space, we want to maybe move into the living space, which seems to have no walls or anything. It's just kind of an open space, like a studio apartment, basically, or, you know, there is no separate rooms. Just a half step that goes into this area. Why don't we start with the bed and then move our way down through the room here? So on top of the bed, there's all these kinds of things that you can add. Sometimes you want to add like an instrument of some kind. I want to make sure that I haven't added one already here already. Oh, I already see that there's an instrument right there. Got some habits there, right? We'll go ahead and place some different things on the bed. Why don't we take some clothes? And you'll see that there are these piles of clothes here. Make sure we get the newest version here. Oh, looks like these are whips right now, not released yet. So I'll just go ahead and place like maybe a dress on top of the table or on top of the here like this, which would kind of make sense. And then we can also maybe add in a hat, pants, and then whatever else that we want to add. There's a pile of clothes here. Why don't we place that on the ground, like maybe right here, and then we'll put it, make sure it's below like this. I'll move this over to here. There we go. We're getting with the kind of clothing feel to it. A bear toy. Love that idea. Let's do that. Toy. Love it. Great choices. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and add that. I'll bring it back up a layer. How about we have it leaning up against the pillow? It already kind of looks like that. See how it kind of lines up kind of nicely? So let's just plate that. Yes, they're a slob, aren't they, Typer Zero? What a messy, messy person, huh? And then we have that, though. That looks good. Let's also put stuff like on top of this dresser right here as well. Am I still... Oh, looks like I'm not within that group anymore. Let's go ahead and just grab those stamps real quick. Copy and paste. I think it's house B, so let's make sure that I go back to house B. There we go. Sometimes that happens. You might accidentally press the escape key while you're inside of a group and start placing stamps. All I do is I just select them all again, and then just I copy, delete them, and then paste them back into the group. So it's when I have a lot of buildings like this, I try to label my buildings so that it's easier, because if you have this many buildings and you're trying to do an interior with all of them, if you put them into groups, they're just easier to navigate. Otherwise, you have to scroll through all these endless amount of stamps to try to find something. So I find it much more helpful to actually group and then label them with like a label area, and that way you can just kind of find where everything is. But everyone does it differently. So let's continue just to add stuff into that house B there. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and type in house B, and then here we are inside. Perfect. Let's go ahead and add in some light sources. Like maybe we want to add in a candle. That makes sense. So we'll go ahead and put a candle right here on top of that dresser. That kind of makes sense. We can put a candle on top of this desk, and then maybe a candle on this, which looks like a dining room. Or a dining table, not necessarily dining room, but you eat and sleep in this half-step area. So, and we're not going to worry about lighting until later. For now, though, I should make sure that these are down a layer so that they're being affected by the shadows of the walls. There we go. That looks good. Okay. All right, we're going to keep adding stuff. Let's look up homestead. Oopsie. There we go. Looks like it's not popping up here. Let's see here. That might have gotten removed. Is it homestead? Nope. It must be under farm then. Let's try that. There we go. Okay, cool. And we can go ahead and continue adding more things here. Let's take a step back. Look here. Why don't we put some books on that dresser? Let's see here. Why don't we use... That looks like a whip. Oh, we can use these ones right here. Mark it. Perfect. Let's go with these ones. We're just going to go with like a stack of 3. We'll put that there. Make sure it's on the right layer as well. There we go. Go ahead and stack right there. Let's obviously maybe put like an open book as well on there. Oops, looks like I keep having to put it on the wrong layer there. Let's rotate it that way a little bit. And then why don't we, since we have a book there, why don't we put some pages? And we'll stick with that slob theme that we have there. Oh, there's some sheets of paper there. Let's go down a layer. Let's also bring the brightness down just a little bit. And then I can go ahead and take these sheets of paper, and I'm going to kind of try to line it up a little bit with the book itself, so I can kind of get an idea of how big the sheets of paper are, and maybe some other ones for some notes like this. There we go. And they look a little too bright. So what I'll do is I think I'll bring the brightness down just a little bit more. Oopsie, missed one. There we go. There we go. Much better. There we go. So we got some notes there. And in fact, why don't we also take some of that paper and put it to here, kind of leading outward here like this. There we go. Okay, that looks good. All right, now we have a desk right here. So maybe like some plans, like maybe a map might look good on a desk. You can place a map there. Maybe we want to add in something like an inkwell. Something that they can match the, something that they can write with on the map if they're trying to mark things. Let's try ink. There he is. Okay, looks like that's still a whip. Here we go. Let's go ahead and place an inkwell there. Why don't we also move this light over to here? And then also, I think we'll go ahead and take this calligraphy pen and we'll just use calligraphy. And we'll also add that there. That looks good. And then maybe a little... And then since that's some ink right there, why don't we move that there and then move this over here? In fact, I'll get rid of that inkwell. Just use this. This will be an inkwell, and then this will be a brush. It might be a little too big. Make it a little bit smaller. That looks good. And then maybe I'll also put some notes like underneath the desk. Oops. I should copy and paste that, really. Copy, paste. And I'm going to go ahead and put some of these notes underneath this desk here. I think that should look more interesting. Here we go. I'll put one over here as well. There we go. That looks good. And then for this section right here, this is like a dining table. So why don't I move that food that I had over there and then maybe place it over here. That would be kind of helpful. And I'll copy and paste this plate. I can also type in food. Why don't I put some bread on the table? There we go. Let's go ahead and use Market 2.0 bread. So I'll place maybe a couple pieces of bread on top of this plate here. My mistake. There we go. That looks good. And then I think maybe some of this sliced bread might look good. Right there. Make sure it's on the right layer. There we go. Okay. Let's take a step back and just see how it looks so far. So we've added quite a bit in here. I think overall this looks fairly good to me. All right. Okay. All right. Let that autosave, and then we'll kind of go over to a different structure. We just did a bedroom or did a house. So why don't we move over to the windmill here? And it kind of looks like we've already added a bunch of details already in here. I see some rats and stuff. This looks good. Yeah, I think this looks good. So we don't have to do a lot of details in here, actually. A piece of paper stuck on the wooden floor. What could be under the board? Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. Yeah, great suggestion. Love that. I like that. Like maybe having like a section of the board that's like cracked open. You could like paint a little bit of black in this one of these floorboards to make it look like the floorboard was wedged and opened up to where it's hiding something. You could do that. That might be interesting. You could use like a black line. You could set it to blur, bring the opacity down a little bit, and then just kind of follow along this floorboard. Kind of like this. Kind of make it look like too much blur, bring the opacity up, bring the size up. There we go. And this little shadow right here, what I'm doing is it makes that part of the board look like it's bowed up a little bit because it's creating a little bit of a shadow. So it looks like that board is kind of popped up a little bit. And then from there, I can also just push this down a couple layers, and then I can take a piece of paper or something, but copy and paste this, go to house B real quick. This little shadow here, perfect. And then I can take this piece of paper right here and place that on top of that shadow. I can make it a little bit bigger if I need to. and then maybe this just like kind of hides that a little bit. But I'm making sure that players can still see it, right? So I've added a little bit of black still. You can still see it underneath of it, but not too much to where it's obvious that there's an opening there. So just kind of placing it like this, kind of hiding some of that, especially this section right here. Players might be encouraged to want to move that piece of paper and then notice that one of those floorboards is kind of popping out a little bit, suggesting that, hey, there might be something underneath those floorboards, because since that's a half step, then you would kind of expect a little bit of space underneath there. Maybe there's something important that your players are looking for, and maybe it's underneath that floorboard. So that's a great choice. Love when people give suggestions. So if you have them, feel free to throw them in the chat. I don't mind at all. Don't be shy. Okay, yeah, great choice. All right, let's go back. Let's go into this house next. This is house C. And we're just going to kind of do the same things that we just did in the first one, right? But this time we'll add a different theme. Like this one, we added in some books, we added in a map and stuff. Maybe we'll add in some different themes into this next one here. And I see that there are 2 people that live here, so we'll try to make a theme for each room, and then we'll add something a little bit different to the kitchen so it's not exactly the same. But we'll definitely go in the kitchen and kind of add in the usual stuff, like a axe, and I'll go over here to make sure that I got the scale right for it. And it's okay if the axes are different sizes. I wouldn't have them wildly different like this, right? It's okay if they're like maybe a point or 2 off. It's okay, right? There's different variety in axes, so it's okay if you make them different sizes. Just be sure to not have it be drastically huge, unless it's maybe meant to be a giant axe weapon or something like that. I'm not sure, but with just a little, when you're just chopping little wood inside of a house, you just need a small little axe. Don't need much. And I'll also do the same thing. I'll show you a nice little trick here that you can do. You can replace an asset. See how I have this fireplace here? I can go to replace asset and just type in fireplace. And then I can click that and then it will replace it. See? That's all I had to do. I didn't have to delete and then go into the catalog and then add it. All I had to do was just select the object, go to this replace asset right here. Now there is a little caveat to this, just so you know. I'll just show you what I mean by this. Is that if you decide to replace an asset and it's within a stamped set, let me just type in bush, and you'll see what I mean here. And if I type this, if I select the bush icon without selecting a specific one within the set, it's just going to pick whatever random is in the set. But if you want a specific bush in the set, you'll have to show all 5 and then pick the specific one you want. So if I want specifically this bush, I click that and it will do that specific one. So just kind of a heads up, when you're doing those stamp sets, make sure that you collapse, open up the stamp set, and then you pick the individual stamp from that set instead of the icon that represents the whole set, because it will randomize. So just kind of an important thing to keep in mind there, okay? All right, let's go ahead and just add some more food in here. I think just like we had with that kitchen table, maybe want to add maybe like a bucket of milk. Puts that on the ground. Maybe they want to warm up some milk for whatever reason. And instead, maybe we'll have the people that live in this house are maybe drunks, alcoholics. So what we should do is maybe throw in some booze, some bottles here of wine. Let's go ahead and type in bottle. There might be some broken ones in here. There's your broken one there, just to kind of show that. I'll go ahead and place that one down on the ground there. Oopsie, we'll put it underneath. I realize. Let me make sure, am I inside the right one? I am. Cool. Go down a layer. Put that broken one underneath. Oop, there's a whole broken one right there. That looks good. Yeah, that looks good. Let's see here. That looks good. Make sure that I'm still in the group. Perfect. Let's go ahead and throw in some food as well. Do something different than the plate I had before. Maybe some breakfast would be a good idea. Put that on the kitchen table. Oops. Got to go up the right layer here. There we go. Let's say there's some breakfast there. Let's type in some utensils, of course. Okay, that's not popping up. Let's type in kitchen. Maybe it'll pop up there. There we go. Some utensils there. That looks good. Looks good. Okay. Let's also put one maybe on the floor. That might make it look more interesting, right? Put one on the floor right there. That would also create that depth. Remember, we were talking about depth. Let's maybe rotate this and move this aside. That would create like maybe some, like people move the chair out of the way. That looks good. We'll continue adding more things in the kitchen there. I see this artisan's basket. See some baskets here. Let's go with, let's see here. What else can we add here? Let's put in like a barrel of food of some kind. That looks good. Maybe put that just right. Maybe it's a short barrel. We can just put it right underneath. Maybe this table right here is a standing table. You don't sit, you stand, and so it can fit a short barrel underneath. That works out well. And then since we have some tomatoes there, we'll maybe even add in some tomatoes. I see a market here. Let's go ahead and bring these down a little bit darker. Make sure I got it scale right. Looks good. I'll just kind of place a bunch of these on the ground like this. Oop, that's not good. And then we'll put some on top of the table as well. And then maybe we'll also throw in a knife. Oop, I see some sliced tomatoes. That's perfect. We'll put that there. And then since there's a sliced tomato, we also want to throw some kind of knife, right? Like how was it cut? So I'll throw in a knife. That looks good. All right, let's take a step back. Yep, coming together pretty good. I think I'm going to add some ambient occlusion to some of these stamps. So let's go into here, go to Object Shadow. Make sure that my ambient occlusion is on there, making sure that those stamps kind of pop out. That looks good. Okay. And then for each bed, I'll maybe throw in a different theme, like maybe one person's like got like to show the different things. We could use different hats, like maybe there's a pirate hat, or I think it's called a tricorn. I'm not sure I remember, but we can put like a tricorn hat on one table or on one bed. There we go. We can also put, let's take a step back, some boots here makes sense. Let's put that down a layer even more. Like maybe they're kind of underneath the bed right there like this. Bring that down, bring the scale up a little bit on this one. There we go. And I'll copy and paste and flip this. There you go. So now you have some boots there. Let's also maybe try and open some kind of open book, or maybe some plans, like some blueprints. Might not be a bad idea. And then maybe we can put a scroll. This is from the Dwarven stuff. Not some bad choices there. Let's also maybe take a candle. You would expect a candle there. Some lighting. Okay. Good. All kinds of details that you can add in a room. Why don't we also add like a chest of some kind? That might not be a bad idea. Just go ahead and take a look at our chest options here. I'm going to expand all the assets here. See which one I kind of like best. Looks like those are whips currently. I don't want to use the whips, so we'll just go use the old ones for now. And I'll just go ahead and put maybe a chest up against right where, right about here. This is a window right here, so I'll go ahead and put that chest right there like that. And I'll bring the brightness down just a little bit. There you go. Rotate it a little bit. A musket, absolutely. If there's like, we could add in a pistol. We can place that, actually, let's place that on the, on top of this. Right here, there we go. Got a pistol there, that looks good. We could throw in a rug if we wanted to. Let's go ahead and type in rug. And when it comes to adding a rug, you're gonna wanna push it all the way down. And I recommend when you do a rug, think about color and also think about layer. So when you put down a rug, you're probably gonna wanna put it below everything else. Kind of a no-brainer there. And then when you place the rug, I want to make sure that the color kind of either complements or works with the color of the bed, because I've got that red there. Green and red work really well together. So why don't I just bring that brightness down a little bit? And now I have like green and red. And also you'll notice that the rug is circular while the room is a square. And again, I'm using contrast to make it more interesting, right? If it was a square rug, then it would already be squared up with the room. But if I add in a circular rug, now I've got 90-degree angles plus curves, and that creates a contrast. So adding a curve or rug to a square or rectangular room is really going to add some contrast to that room. So it's kind of helpful to do little things like that. So really nice. And again, also the color theme as well, green and red, those go well together. A wooden training sword sounds perfect. I'm not against that. Is there a sword made out of wood? I think there is. It should be. Oh, there it is right there. I would not consider it a pirate sword, but I think it works. And then why don't we maybe have it be like on top of the chest? Oopsie. We'll undo that real quick. My mistake. And oopsie. We'll go back. There we go. And I'll just go put that wooden sword just right on top of that chest there. That looks good. Okay, so that room looks pretty good so far. Why don't we go over to that next room? And this time we'll go with an entirely different theme, right? Something entirely different. Like maybe this person is someone who's into like a mathematician or a calculator or something like that. So why don't we maybe throw in something like an abacus? I think it's called an abacus. Yeah, there it is, an abacus. That looks good. We'll throw in some tools like maybe a compass here. And then let's go ahead and go through here. Maybe they're an adventurer. Maybe we should consider adding in like a rolled up bed. Maybe we'll just put that right there. Like this. And in fact, why don't we add a backpack as well? Let's put a water skin in there. That might not be a bad idea. And to make it look like it's kind of leaning over the edge, I'll kind of put it right there like that. And then I think I mentioned the backpack. Oops. Okay, yeah, let's use this one right here, kind of an adventurer's bag. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put this bag in this corner just like that. There we go. And then I can move this thing into this corner right here like this. A bedroll. That's good. And then why don't we also let's go through the catalog and we'll look for more details. Great idea on the wooden training sword, by the way. Love that. Thank you for suggesting that. Okay. Let's go through the catalog here. Let's throw in another hat. Like there's this nice blinder cap. Why don't we put that in there? That might not be a bad idea. Let's put it right there on the shelf. Okay, that looks good. We're getting close. I think, you know what? I have an idea. Why don't we create like a trap door of some kind? I think that might be fun. Yeah, adding the details is my favorite because these details are what kind of tell like the story of the inhabitants of the room. So it's kind of helpful. Oops, is it one word? It might be one word. Let's try trap door. There it is, yeah. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and use this trap door right here. Just want to make sure it's the right scale so a person can walk inside of it. So I'm going to go ahead and place it up against the bed so I can get a good feel for the scale. The color is a little off, so I can always just go to hue like this. I'll bring the brightness down a little bit. There we go. We'll make sure we get that hue right. There we go, a little bit of red in there looks good. Bring the brightness down just a little bit more. I want it to match in with the floor there. There we go. And then there, let's just say that there's like a little trap door there, and then I'll go ahead and place this bag right on top of that, so that way people can kind of see it. We did the same kind of concept over here with that floorboard over here. We're doing that same kind of concept here with like a little trap door right here, but it's kind of hidden. I try not to make it too obvious for my players, right? You want your players to work a little bit, but not too hard, right? You don't want it to be so impossible to find, but you also don't want it to be so easy there's no sense of challenge or fun to it. So just putting a backpack there, hiding a little bit of it, and that way if your players go to steal the backpack or get whatever's inside of it or look at it or whatever it might be, they'll notice that there's a little bit of a trap door underneath of it instead of just boom, hey, there's a trap door. Okay, I always try to hide things a little bit. I don't want my players to, I don't want it to be too easy, but I don't want it to be impossible either, because I've tried doing that where I made something very difficult and my players never figured it out. And that was really rough on them and it was rough on me. So I try not to make things too difficult for my players. Or maybe my players are dum-dums. I don't know. I love them. That's all I can say. You know what? Let's not put a rug in this next one. I think that just looks fine like that. That looks good. But we should probably throw in some kind of candle, like some kind of lighting. We'll put it maybe on the edge of the table here, right next to the bed, which kind of makes sense. And then I noticed that there's an abacus there. So why don't we also throw like some coin? This person cares about money to an extent, I would wager. So let's go maybe put like a coin bag on the ground. Why don't we put it underneath of the bed? Bring the brightness down a little bit. And then I'll take some coins as well. I'll make sure the scale is right. I'll scale the coin down to about the same size as the coin that you see there. I'll bring the brightness down, and then I'll just place, oopsie, those are a little too small at 15. Let's maybe bring up a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. And I'm just going to place some coins just on the floor like this. There we go. That looks better. Okay. C, I think that's most of the interiors. I think the only other interiors we have to do are probably the boathouses. And the boathouses are pretty easy. I wouldn't put anything more than just like crates and barrels, things that are going to store things. If a fisherman is going out on the river and picking up some fish, they need something to store all that fish, right? So maybe putting like some crates and barrels inside of the boathouse so they can take it out with them, or when they get back, they can put the load, take the fish out of the boat, and then put it inside of a crate or a barrel. So we'll go to like boathouses and just put maybe a crate or a barrel in each one. We'll start with boathouse 1. And what I'll do is I'll actually grab a crate that's got some fish in it, which I think right here looks good. Market 1. Let me expand it to make sure that... let's use a circular one because our boathouse is is a square. So by adding a circular one will break up that symmetry, and we'll put that right in that corner there. That looks good. We don't need to add too much. I'll go into this boathouse number 2. In fact, I'll just type in boathouse 2. Perfect. And instead of putting fish this time, maybe we'll put like an empty crate. And we'll put it just in this corner right here. And you notice that where I'm placing it is not right in front of the door, but right in this little corner right here. There's still room on the dock to go onto the boat, and there's still room for that crate right there. Yeah, adding details is also my favorite part. Heck yeah. That looks good. Don't have to add too much. Let's go do the last boathouse. I see it right down there. There should be a third boathouse right there. And we'll throw one more crate and barrel in there. In fact, why don't we use something from the Eastern Village? I kind of like the little rope that's going across, kind of tying everything. So let's go ahead and place that one right there. There we go. Okay. Where are we at for time? 55? Cool. Sweet. Yes, I don't mind going over a little bit. What we're going to do now is we're going to do lighting. So I'll show you how we're going to go about doing that. First, I'm going to turn off my labels. It's no longer necessary. So I've showed you before in the previous episode that you can do lighting with shapes. And here we put together a shape, and then I just erased sections of the shape. And that method works just fine. Everyone has different methods, has different ways. I mean, there's only one way to do anything, right? I'm just teasing you. Yeah, so, I mean, what we'll do is we'll use shadow. We'll use layers, or these brush layers. And what I want to do first is I want to add a mask layer, okay? And a mask layer is going to help me to isolate where I can paint, right? So if I put a mask on something, it will help me to decide where to paint and not to paint. All right, so if I click on shadows and then I right click and then go add mask, you'll notice that a little mask layer shows up right here. One of the first things I want to do is I want to visualize that mask. When I click that, it's going to visualize where the mask is. Okay, now what the red means is wherever there's going to actually, the brush is going to be affected. So if you erase anything, if you erase any of that, then that area is no longer going to be able to do the brush. So why don't I just give you an example of what I mean by that. So let's first just use this, and I'm going to just remove this part right here, and I'll show you how this works. So if I put this here like this, let me just line it up against here like this, go to apply. Okay, now if I go to my shadow layer here, and if I start applying a brush, Let's go here, brush here, like this. Get my brush size right. You notice here that the red area, it paints on top of that, but it doesn't paint inside of the house. You see? So layer masks help you to decide where you can paint and not paint. It's the equivalent of using like the FG layer to paint the inside of a house. It's the same concept, right? So when you're doing the layer mask, what you'll do instead, I'm going to go and fill that. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my white here. I'm going to fill all of that in there. And in fact, what I'll end up doing is I'll just go ahead and just remove it all. Just go fill. Oopsie, put the black. There we go, fill. And then I'll go back over to my white. And I'm just going to line this up like this. I'm just going to go to apply. And so now we'll only paint in there. The other thing I recommend is to make sure that your walls also don't get affected. So I'll go in like this. I'm just going to edit this, and I'm just going to remove sections of the wall because it doesn't make any sense to have shadows on that part. So I'll just apply there. Oopsie, is it not working here? Let me go back to my black. Apply here. There we go. Same thing here. I'll just move this over to here like this. Apply this. That looks good. Apply. There we go. Okay. So now my walls won't be affected. Now, when I go over back to my shadow layer, and I want to pick whatever color I want for my shadows, red, blue, purple, whatever you want. And what I generally do here is you'll notice that I'll be able to paint. See, I'm able to paint inside of that building without accidentally painting, overlapping into the outside. But what I want to do here is I'm going to do a couple things. One, I want to go to layer options, and I want to bring the opacity down to around, let's go with about 40%. That's the layer itself is at 40. Then when I go to my brush and I want to switch over to my default brush, and I want to bring my opacity all the way to 100, what this will do is that I can now paint in my shadow at 100%, and I won't accidentally double up on the shadows. Okay, so you're kind of getting that idea there. So I'll go back. I'm going to go ahead and just undo all this stuff. Restore. And what's really nice is you can change the shadows object, this layer's opacity. So first, what we want to do is we want to paint in our light source. I'm not going to worry about putting the layer masks on the light layer because the lights are going to be much smaller in area in comparison to the shadows. So what I'll do here is I'm going to choose this layer. I'm going to right click and go layer options. I'm going to go to blend mode overlay because you notice that the light stamps, if I type in light, you're going to notice that these light stamps, the blend mode that they're set to default is overlay, right? So it kind of makes sense that the same layer that I'm going to have my lights on will also be an overlay blend mode. Then from there, I want to choose a color that represents my light. So maybe I want to use this orange, this kind of yellowish light color right here. That works out just fine. And then what I'll do here also is I'll go ahead and bring the opacity down a little bit on this as well. So layer options, and I'll bring the opacity down. And then that way, if I'm at 100%, it won't be too much. In fact, we can bring it down even more than that. Let's go to layer options. Let's go to maybe 25. Let me apply that. I think that's okay, actually. Perfect. Okay. And then from here, I'm going to want to do a couple things. I'm going to establish where my light sources are. So I'll go ahead and take this light stamp here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of light right here, a little bit of light right here. That looks good. And I'll go ahead and add a little bit more light here, a little bit here. We want to add some by this fireplace right here. That looks good. And then I can go over to this light layer again, layer options, and then I can change the opacity to decide how much light that I want. See how that's nice now? Now I can kind of decide. I have more control instead of having to paint multiple times with the brush because I have it set to a lower opacity. But if the brush opacity is set to 100, you can just control the opacity of the brush layer itself, allowing you to have more control over how much light you want to have. So, and it's set to overlay blend mode, so it should work out fairly well there. So I can go ahead and bring this up as high as I want it to be. I kind of am happy with the way that it is right there like that, so that works out well. And then when I get to my shadow parts, and in fact, what I'll do is I think I'll have one room without the shadows. Let me go back to shadow here. You can go to erase, and I'll just go ahead and erase, oopsie, light. There we go. I'm going to erase. I'm just going to erase that. I'm going to have one room be dark for contrast. So if I go back to my structures here, I'm going to go to house B real quick. I think this is B. Which one is this one? Let's go back to labels. House C, my mistake. There we go. I'm going to remove this. I want to show shadows really, really well. So to do that, we'll start with this room and kind of move our way in. So this room will probably be darker than the other rooms because there's not a light source in there, but we have a light source right here. So what I'll do is sometimes I'll just use like a little line as a guide, and sometimes you can just eyeball it. That's up to you, right? Some people can eyeball this stuff, other people can't. Mostly I eyeball it, but if you're not good at eyeballing how shadows should go, then you should create some guidelines to help you out. So for instance, here's where the light source is. So if I go like this, it's going to be right there like that. Then I know that the light is probably going to go in like this. Now, when the light source goes in here like this, it's also going to reflect a little bit of light, causing some light to be in the room there. So I'll go over to shadow layer here, and you can change the blend modes of your shadow layer to whatever you want. I'm not going to worry about that, but what I'll do first is I'll just take my shadow here, and I'm just going to paint in just like this. There's that first shadow. That works out fine, and then I can remove that guideline there, and you can already see the shadow is popped out. And if you want more shadow, you can always just take the layer object and then just bump up your shadow like this if you want it to be lighter or darker shadow. See, that's the choice that you can kind of make. So remember that trick, 100% brush opacity, and then you can just change the layer opacity, the brush layer, to give you more control, right? So I'll go ahead and just do this, bring in that shadow there. That looks good. And then also I'll go ahead and just fill in shadow in this whole section right here, like this. This whole room will have it. Then I'll go back to erase, and then just kind of erase the areas that I want the light to work. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to do it. Honestly, I don't think there's really a right or a wrong way, but I think it looks really nice. Let's also, since there's so much light there, why don't we have the light kind of going this way, like this? This whole room. That way we can kind of make a distinct shadow going right here. So the bed right there looks good. Okay, we'll go ahead and erase this section here. And then I'll go ahead and go back. Now I'll just go ahead and fill this entire room with shadow. And then I'll go back and just kind of erase the areas that I want. So there's a nice fireplace here, so you kind of expect a decent amount of light. And because there's a light coming in there, I should probably remove it there. There we go. That looks good. Okay, there we go. So the light's in there, hard shadow there. That looks good. We want to throw in some shadows along the table here. So why don't we have, there's this shadow here. Why don't we put a shadow along this table? Oopsie, my mistake. We'll go undo that. Go back to color. And I'll just put a little bit of shadow along here where this table is. That kind of makes sense. Along where that desk is. Wherever this chair is right here, you're going to find some shadow work. You're going to find some shadows along these items here. Along here. That looks good. And then some shadow along here. And then some shadow along here as well. There we go. Okay. Yeah, a window can be a light source. This window right here has a light source. Why don't we close that window so that way it doesn't look like we kind of forgot about that, because this looks like a window right here, and I totally agree. So why don't we go back to house C, and then we'll go ahead and use a door or whatever to act as like a window, like a shutter. Let's go to door here. Door works just fine, and we'll kind of just pick the best door to kind of, and it won't be a door, it'll actually be a window with a shutter. And I'll go ahead and place that right inside of here. Oh, looks like I need to go up a layer or two. That looks good. Put it up against there like that. So this will be like a window right here. And what you can do is that if you wanted to show a little bit of light, because you know how it is with a window, the shutter might have, you know, maybe a little bit of space between the window sill and the actual shutter or the shutter door or whatever, then you would have just a little bit of light kind of coming in from underneath, right? So we want to show that. So what I'll do is I'll just go into my shadow layer here, and I'm just going to erase just a little bit right there, a little bit. Got my shadow, make sure it's set to erase, a little bit there. And then you can also go back to light, and we'll choose our color here. I'm just going to go ahead and bring the scale down a little bit, and we can just put just a little bit of light just right there, just like this, just to kind of show there's a little bit of light kind of coming in. And I'll put it on the outside too, because you would expect a little bit of light there. So that light should be kind of coming in just a little bit like this, a little bit. And then that next step is you also want to throw in some highlights. So maybe I want to take a little bit of that yellow and place it there. Maybe put a little bit of that yellow and place it along this table right here. Maybe a little bit right here on this corner right here. That looks good. Right there looks good. A little bit right there. That looks good. And then all along, highlight there, along this abacus. We'll put the highlights here. Maybe put a highlight right here against that one. That looks good. And then we'll go back to shadow also and put a shadow right there. Oopsie, with the color black, my mistake. There we go. There you go. All right, so you see putting shadows together is pretty easy. I find this method to be slightly easier than using objects. And the reason why is because when I use a shape to do shadows, I kind of find that I might accidentally select it. It might not be on the right layer, and so it doesn't get affected the same way. And sometimes I have to do all these changes. If you just use a brush layer with a layer mask, it's less amount of steps and less a chance of mixing it up. So shapes for me are kind of out for doing shadows unless you like using shapes. Not saying it's something you don't have to do, but I find this method to be much easier than trying to use a shape, because then you have to look for the shape through all a list of all these objects here in an object layer. But with this, it's just there are the layers right there. You'll even notice that I put the light and the highlights in the same layer. So I'll go ahead and delete the highlight layer. And so you have light and shadows there. All right, I think what we can do is just add a little bit of the last bit of a shadow work, I think. Let me just see where we at for time here. 4:09. Let me just take a look here. I think we should continue on our light and shadow stuff. Let's go to this next room over here. Go to Shadows Layer Mask. And then I'll just go ahead and do that layer mask technique all over again. So go back to Layer Mask right here. And use that white here. I'm just going to go like this. Get it. Remember, you don't want to touch the walls. Remember, that's the one thing you don't want. So I'll go like this, bring it in. This one will be a little bit easier because it doesn't have internal walls. So that's kind of nice. So I'll just go to Apply. Scale this up. Move this here, here. Like that, go to Apply, perfect. And then I'll go to that last section right there, just like this. Just go to Apply. There we go. Okay. Now when I go to paint my shadow, that will be there. So that looks out good. So first we'll go over to my light, and I'll go ahead and paint in where my light sources are. Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Becca. Absolutely. Okay, let's go ahead and create a little bit of our light source here. That looks good. I think there's also a light source there. That looks good. And I believe there's also a light source right here. So that looks good. Okay. Oh, and also right here is a light source. Okay, and then I'll go to my shadows here. Let's go and fill in the whole thing with my shadows. And then I'll go back to my erase options, and I'll go ahead and just add in wherever my light sources are. That's where the light is. Since there's so many light sources, including here, this room is not going to be very dark. It's going to be this is going to be a pretty bright room, considering we have 3 candles and a fireplace here. So you're not going to see a lot of shadow inside of this room. Okay, let's go back to shadows here, and we'll go ahead and paint in kind of our directional shadows. Like there's a light source right here, so we'll put a little bit of dark there, a little bit here, put a little bit here. The shelf, the desk is right there. Oopsie. There we go. Okay, a little bit of shadow work there. Same thing here. Put a little bit of shadow in here, behind here. Okay, it's a little on the dark side there. There we go. Paint a little bit of shadow along here as well. Okay. All right, we'll take a step back. That looks good. Okay. All right. You know, I think we need to add a little bit more to our road. I think what would be nice is to maybe throw in some stones, like a neutral gray. I think we also have these storage pieces right here. But we'll go ahead and use a texture because I want to add a little bit more gray to this color, warm kind of dirt color here. So I'm going to try to look for like an alpha texture that will work well for that. So we'll go into the catalog and type in rock or stone. This cave rock, both of these might work out. Let's go with this one for now. Let's get the scale right. That looks about right. And I think I'll use just your regular default brush is fine. Set to your FG layer. Bring the opacity down a little bit. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint some rocks like this, just to kind of to show where exactly that road is, and that gray will contrast well against that warmer color. So I'll just go ahead and put these stones wherever there is path. Wherever you see a path, that's where I'm going to be putting that stone texture. This will kind of help reinforce that there's like a little bit of a road here. There we go. That looks good. Okay. That looks good. I'm also going to add a little bit more shadow to the trees as well. I'll go select all from this set. The shadow is a little small, so why don't we boost that shadow, bring the intensity up, and then we can kind of really use that to kind of get the shadows kind of working there. That looks good. And I would like to also paint a little bit of shadows on the trees themselves, because when you look at a tree, you'll notice that there isn't a shadow, really a shadow side, right? But you can totally change that. And I'm going to use a different brush layer to do that, actually. So what I can do is I'll change this shadows to rename it to interior shadows. Oopsie. In is important, apparently. Oh, all caps. All right. My keyboard is fighting me. We'll go to another layer, a brush layer, and we'll call it external shadows. There we go. That looks good. All right, I'll make sure that brush layer is down a little bit. Let's go about 41%. And then I'll grab my color black. That looks good. Oops, bring that up. Let me just see how dark that is. Oop, not edgy brush. Soft brush. How dark is that? Yeah, that works out just fine. Okay. And then we have to decide where the light source is coming from. And since my shadows are already right here on this side, then it's not too bad to deduce that maybe that light is on this side. So I'll just go in through here and just kind of paint the shadows on the tree so that way those trees are going to look much more realistic when you have like the shadows on that tree there, here as well, even on the bush a little bit, along that bush, along this tree right here. Just going to paint in our shadows here. That looks good. Same thing here. We'll paint a shadow in here. We're getting there. This one right here should have a shadow. That looks good. Okay. And then also, if that's where the shadows are, then I should also add in my shadows for my building. So I'll go ahead and put some heavier shadows along the building here, along this building right here as well. My shadows along this building right here, right? You got shadows here. There should be shadows along here as well, like this. There we go. We also want to put shadows along here. And I don't mind that if I'm going over the walls a little bit. That's okay. I can go back and paint them if I need to. It's okay. But for now, I'm just going to do it this way. Want to get my shadows in here. They're probably not perfect. I just want you to get an idea. So shadows are something that requires a little bit of work. You kind of have to go over everything to make sure that it looks good. But for now, we'll go ahead and just kind of put together the shadows here. There needs to be some all along here. Looks good. Okay. All right, looks good. Yep, underneath the bridge, great one. In fact, I'll paint that. I'll paint that in the water itself because it's above it, right? So I'll just try. I'll see if I can do that. I might not be able to. We'll try it in just a moment. First, let's just get all our shadows done here, and then we'll go back and attach that. We'll also put them inside here as well. You would expect this whole thing to have shadow inside of it, right? This whole thing would have shadow inside of it. And then we'll paint out. Same thing here. We'll paint the whole shadow in here. Oopsie. These are supposed to be external shadows, but my mistake. Here. Like this. That looks good. Boathouse. And then I'll go back to erase. And I can just paint a little bit of shadow going in that way. You wouldn't have much light going in there, but you would have the light going in here. So we'll go like this. There we go. And you'd have light kind of going in this way like this. There we go. Okay. Oopsie. So you can kind of see how much those shadows have an effect. They look really nice. Let's put all my shadows right here as well. Kind of missed a piece. There we go. That looks good. Straighten them out a little bit. Same thing here. There we go. Okay, and you notice how much the shadows changed it, right? It really made the light, really made it look like it popped out a little bit more. Someone mentioned underneath that bridge. Absolutely. Let's do that. I'll bring the opacity down a little bit, and I'll just see if I can just paint right underneath like this. And I kind of noticed that there is some mask effects. So this is not too complex. I can just go to water, and I'll go to brush, go to add another layer. Oops. Oopsie, up here. There we go. Brush layer. We'll call this bridge shadow. It is right there. It should be underneath the objects. Yeah, it is underneath the objects. Perfect. And then I can just go ahead and just paint that shadow. Yeah, there we go. Looks good. Let me just take a step back. Just see how it looks. Yeah, that has a huge effect. Where are we at for time? 20? Okay, let's do a couple more things here. I'm gonna put down what I should do is probably put down some filters, and we'll figure out which filters are the best one to use. If you don't know where filters are now, they're right here in this layer panel. You simply just go add and go add a filter layer. One of the most basic filters you can use is just a clarity filter. A clarity filter works really well. I'm going to go ahead and place that all the way up to here. And I'm going to go ahead and change that bar so you can see what clarity does. Right here, it kind of had a little bit of mute color. And then when you bring up that clarity, it really gets the light to pop. And you can really decide on what I find clarity, it just adds the extra pop of color, but it can also tell you a little bit about like your time of day. Right here, looks like the sun might be closer to the horizon. Maybe it's more middle of the day because the sun is up high and it's really pounding down that light. So you can use clarity to kind of decide a little bit of time of day. You can always do that. That's a good one to choose. And there's a couple other filters that I also like to add as well. Like sometimes I like to add a vignette. A vignette will kind of create this black outline around it. So I'll go ahead and go to vignette here, go like this. And what that vignette does is it kind of creates this black kind of shadow. And I can sometimes change that blend mode to like overlay. Sometimes I'll do that, just depends. So you can go like this. And if I ever add that kind of if I ever add this, I'll generally add like a spotlight filter as well to add some light in the center. So I'll go to add another layer, go to filter, we'll go to spotlight. There we go. And that spotlight puts a little bit of light right there in the center there. So if I go to spotlight here, I bring the opacity down, you see what it does. It adds a little bit of light in the center there. And this kind of gives it that more close to midday, like maybe like 11 a.m. kind of feel to it. Maybe you're closer to 10 a.m. because the shadows aren't elongated to the point where the light would be at the horizon. Remember, whenever a light is at the horizon, the cast shadows are much more elongated. The further you get closer to noon, the more the shadows just become a drop shadow. So because the shadows of these buildings are not highly elongated, that means that the sun is higher up in the sky than it is to the horizon. Okay, so just kind of remember that. Closer to the horizon, more elongated shadows. Higher up in the sky, less elongated shadows. Nice little trick to kind of help you out there. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of zoom in for a little bit, and we can just throw just a real couple details on the outside. And I think what looks really nice is just crates, barrels, wagons, all the things you would kind of expect. So if I just like maybe just type a little wagon here. Seeing some battlefield stuff, cool stuff here, some market stuff. I like all of that stuff. Let's go ahead and put because there's a mill right here, it kind of makes sense to maybe put like a cart right there. Let's maybe bring that a little bit smaller, put it right there. We can also put like maybe a broken cart can be somewhere in the bushes somewhere, like sticking out from the tree. So maybe we can take this piece right here. I can go ahead and remove these bushes here and then maybe have like a broken cart. Maybe there'll be something hidden there that the players can find, right? Always helpful stuff. Let's go type in those crate. And I kind of like these crates right here. So I think I'll have a couple of those. So I'll put a couple, like one right here, maybe a bigger one along right here, one here, and maybe put one inside of the barrel, inside of there as well. So I'll bring the scale down, rotate just a little bit. There we go. Now I have some there. Let's use a different crate and barrel this time. Let's maybe put some crates and barrels along here. Oopsie, we'll have to go down a layer. There, maybe put some along here as well. And I always try to vary up my size as well, because different sizes makes more sense. So I'll maybe put one there. Let's also make some barrels. Crates and barrels are always just what I think of some of the best stuff to add details. Let's add some big barrels here. I'll stack them like this so they're on top of each other. Like this, nice little trick. You want to show that one barrel is higher than the other. Let's bring the brightness down of the two at the bottom and then bring the brightness up a little bit on the one at the top. And that will kind of create that sense of illusion there, which is kind of nice. And then maybe we can take another one, rotate it this way like that. That looks good. What about barrels that are upright? So we'll put a couple barrels that are upright, maybe stack a couple there. That looks good. Maybe we'll stack a barrel right there. Since it's a fishing village, let's go ahead and make sure that we have lots of fishing stuff. So why don't we maybe put like something in the center here, like just a bunch of fish that got captured. That's funny, Pat draws. Love that. Funny stuff. Yeah, let's go ahead and just throw like a bunch of fish stuff like everywhere. You would kind of expect, like, because you're right next to this river here. So we'll put a lot of different fish stuff in here. Maybe I'll put one inside of right here. Those two are there. Just put one right there. Inkarnate. I love that. Good one, Pat. Okay, let's just take a step back and look at it. So we've added lots of details on here. You know what we could also do is maybe we want to throw in, one thing I've noticed about the water is it looks like it's kind of still. Because I have a little bit of a waterfall right here, you're going to expect some flow. So we should probably paint that or add it in. There's a couple ways that you can do this. There's a lot of different ways, really. You can paint it. You can use a line tool. Lots of different ways that we can do it. So let's go free draw. We'll go over to here, and I'm just going to type in wave. And I'm going to use these little pond waves right here. I think that would look good. What I'll do first is just apply it just to get the scale right. So my scale's way off. About that size looks good. Maybe I can change that blend mode to overlay. Let's see here. It kind of gives it this kind of bluish kind of look to it. Let's try a different one. Let's try maybe lighten. Ooh, maybe screen would work better. I don't know. Let's try that. Let's bring the opacity down a little bit. There we go. That looks good. Okay, and then I can take my pen and I can just draw some sense of movement, right? That the water is moving. So if I throw in these kind of waves here, I can start putting together this illusion that there are waves. Or not waves, but kind of motion. And I think right here I've got them on the top layer here. So why don't we move these waves down below? There we go, underneath the bridge. That's layer -5. I'll remember that. Sublayer -5. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and just continue kind of creating just some kind of sense of motion, right? You want it to look like that the water is moving. So to do that, I'm going to throw in just a little bit of lines here to make it look like it's doing just that. There we go. That looks good. That looks good. And then also, whenever you have something like rocks like this, water's going to go around it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take a couple like this and just make it look like there's these streaks coming from these rocks like this, right? Same thing with these boats right here. Water's going to be hitting those boats, so why don't I have a little bit of that going like this? Same thing here. I might want to go over to here, put it up against this piece here because water is going against there like this. Looks good. Okay. Looks good. All right. Let me just take a step back. Where are we at for time? 29? That looks good. You know what? Let's just do one storage. I don't need to do all 3 storage units, so or whatever this little unit is right here. So I'm only going to do 1. So because I'm just going to be doing the same thing to all of them, I'll do the other 2 off screen, and then I'll make this map clonable. I think it's called storage. Yeah, there we go. This is called storage 1. Perfect. Okay. So with this, we've got 2 shapes. We've got a hay roof and a wooden, the wall itself. So what we want to do is we want to break that up. So if I just go over to shape, then I go over to portals, I can go ahead and put a portal in. So let's put a portal right there. And then I'll put a portal on this next one right here as well. And then you can see that now I have kind of an opening in this structure here, right? And then the next step is maybe I want to add in some stairs. And I think there is some circular stairs, but let me just verify that real quick. Stair. Let me go ahead and expand all assets. Let's see here. I don't remember which one of these. This is it right here. These ones right here should work. Unfortunately, there is no wood. Oh, this wood right here might work just fine. Let's try this. And we'll place that just right there like that. That looks good. So now we have some circular stairs that go inward. I want to match a little bit, bring the brightness down. Let me just take a look at this wood right here. That's about right. Let's go ahead and turn that shadow off. I don't need the shadow on. And I want to bring the brightness down on this so it matches that same brightness of that other stair. There you go. And you don't have to add a stair if you don't want to. Like maybe you don't want stairs because you want to be able to put a wheelbarrow or something that can go in there. Maybe some can have stairs and some don't. That's up to you to decide. I'll put stairs on this one just so that it kind of looks nice. Like this. And then inside a storage unit, you would probably have all the same things, right? You would have like, let's go ahead and open up this this water mill right here. watermill, and I think I'll just take some of these bags right here, and I'll just copy and paste those and just go right back over here to storage. And I'll just V copy paste, and I'll just go ahead and put some of that stuff in there like that. Stack them up against the wall here. There you go. And now you have some storage there. That pops out there. That looks good. There are a couple other things that you can do to make it a little bit more interesting. Like maybe I want to have like a architectural element that's not a room. Like maybe I want to make, I don't know, like maybe a tower that's not really a tower. It's just some fancy element. So what I can do is I can go over to like my, so I can go maybe, let's go to structure. We'll go into house A. Let me just take a step back and look at each one here. What would be the best location to add this? Let's go ahead and try house B, this one right here. I think there's enough room for this. And I'll go ahead and just type in roof. And sometimes it's nice to add in a little bit of roof to roof, or roof, whichever way you want to pronounce it. It's nice to add a little roof piece in here because I think it looks nice. Like right here, I can throw in like this little piece like right here. I can put it in a corner right here if I want to. Just bring this up a layer like this. And you'll notice that I have some of my layer mask right there. I'll have to fix that. Don't worry, that's fixable. But maybe I just want to throw like a little piece in the corner here like this just to make it look a little bit more interesting, just to throw in like an architectural element that looks interesting. So I can go back to my, let's go with interior shadows. Let's go to layer mask. And then I'll go over to here and I'm just going to erase some sections. So I'll just go ahead, oopsie, wrong one. There we go. Let's go ahead and erase, oopsie, all the way up. There we go. And let's go ahead and erase this section right here. There we go. I'm just erasing that. Same thing here. I'll go to internal shadows, go to here. Where is my external shadows? Perfect. Go to erase here. Like this. There we go. That looks good. And then I'll go ahead and take that external shadow, get that color right again, and then just put that shadow right like this. There we go. Get that shadow going. And I should probably also add a little bit of a drop shadow on top of that because it's kind of not popping out very well. So I'll go to object shadow here. Bring that intensity up, and then this will pop out more. Oh, you're looking for mask effects first time chatter? Yeah, I'll show you that in just a moment. Let's go ahead and just get the shadow set up on this thing. So when you see that you have your land shape right here, look really carefully. There's Zenri Zap. Right here it says land mask, shape mask. If you right click on that, so you'll see a land, that'll be a brush layer. Right below that will be a mask layer. See that little shovel? Go ahead and right click that, land style, and there's your enable your mask effects. Okay? Sweet. Glad I was able to help you with that. Okay, well, I think I'm just going to do the rest of the changes, which is stuff that you've already seen.